Hi, I'm Sarah Wilder, and this is part 22D of Surviving the Man I Married. Thank you for sticking with me with this new format and throughout the story. I'm getting the hang of it too. So, Jim and I were getting ready to leave Becca's after a 5 day stay helping out with the grandkids. And I was already dreading getting in that car for the long 12-hour drive. It was, there was tension in the air between us the whole week, but especially that morning as we prepared to leave. So, at the last minute, Becca had gathered us all on the front porch, Jim and I and the grandkids, for a last minute photograph. And Jim let us know in the most obvious way possible how he felt about our trip. And just at the moment where we were assembled and the camera snapped, Jim proudly and loudly ripped gas. He farted. He blevied like a damn elephant. Yeah, we all busted up in laughter. I have pictures. I have like 6 sequential pictures of everyone grabbing their noses, gagging, wincing, and it's just disgusting. It was funny but disgusting. And I was thinking, wow, what a treat. What a treat this man is. I can't wait to get in that tiny little car with him. Okay, so we're in the car heading west. I waited for quite a long time. I waited till all the way across Nevada, through Wendover, we passed into Utah, passed into the Mountain Time Zone, and then I severed that 8 hours of silence to finish our tabled conversation from 5 days earlier. I reminded Jim that no answer he gave would be penalized, that my goal was just to get at the truth, no matter how ugly it was. I just really wanted the truth. And I told him I felt owed as much. And I think that's the energy behind my ego. I mean, not only was the whole thing a bad idea on the way there, but after the 5 days, I just hung out with the kids and Becca and I had fun and stuff. But it really, I should have let it lie, but I couldn't. I had to get the stick out and continue poking the bear. My prodding was initially met with the usual deflection. He was dreading it too, I'm sure for this very reason, because I just can't, I'm like a dog with a bone. Jim just sighed, flaccidly gaslighting, like minimum effort. And I felt like on my end, I had nothing to lose at that point. I was on the cusp of leaving him, and I felt justified in waging this last battle. Plus, I put my higher self on notice. I said to her that despite her better judgment, and I knew what her guidance would be, I planned to sacrifice what was left of my threadbare dignity in an attempt to get even just one admission from Jim, even just one. I mean, 6 months earlier, the corn addiction thing, that was fabulous, but I wanted more. I wanted him to admit to affairs with real people. So despite my assurance the car was a penalty-free zone, Jim just he cycled through one noxious excuse after another. But because of what I knew and the accumulated knowledge I had from illicit, shall we say, sources, I found the stalemate frustrating and I lost my cool. So much for keeping emotions on the sideline. My throat chakra was a little too wide open. I loudly laid out that I straight up knew he was heavily using corn and he was seeing people since we put those ugly rings on. And in recent months, I felt like it was worsening, and by the week, worsening, citing times when I observed behavior of his that just made me um, sure of his actions. So onward and downward I sank as I fake, faux, phony pleaded with Jim to help me understand how I lost that part of him, the physical affection side, the attention side, the intimacy and the loyalty, the marital loyalty part of him, and to tell me what it would take to restore it, thinking that he would bite at my desperation, because in the past that has been successful bait. And as that last part fell out of my mouth, to restore it, I mean, I felt a little emotional about the shame. I felt shame. I felt like a hot flash of you're disgusting, like acid in the back of your throat. I was accruing some some level of that with my insincere tactics because it was a performance. But you know what? I'd endured a lot of performances from him. For once, I was putting it on, and I was not gaining any new ground for all my efforts. So I set my shame aside, and I offered suggestions about how to spice up our marriage. Like this is like a bad sitcom, honestly. Practicing polyamory, which would have leveled the playing field for me. There was no downside to that for me, but he wouldn't consider it. He wouldn't even hear it. He said that was not a form of marriage that he would consider. The hypocrite. No one is a bigger hypocrite than the narcissist. And the people with those little fish stickers on the back of their minivans and SUVs, the Christian stickers. I hate those. They're the ones that cut you off in traffic and sue you. Still not dissuaded from the absurd mission objective, I suggested that maybe we take periodic trips over the state line together to have threesomes to accommodate his divergent needs. I struck gold. I struck a nerve, rather, with that one. To that comment, Jim responded angrily, and he shouted at me, "No, I don't like that for you." Silence fell, and the air hung heavy in that itty bitty car. And I redirected my gaze. I was stunned, my face out the window, and I just felt the bumps of that really worn out I 80 East concrete roadway, and had to think for just, I don't know, maybe 5 seconds. And I turned back towards Jim, and I could see his face had grown redder, deeply red. His eyes were black, his jaw was clenched, and he had that familiar look when he turns into the cowboy. And I looked at him and I shouted back, kind of. I'm not much of a yeller, but I managed. "That's blankety blank effing obvious." And then I asked him point blank, "Well, who do you like it for then? Who? Who fills that role?" Well, at that, Jim realized his mistake, and he tried to backtrack his accidental revelation, but he was feeling exposed. So I pushed while I had him feeling vulnerable. I unpacked my continued suspicion of what really happened on that pivotal day at his cop job over 6 years earlier in 2016, and how I found his continued use of a robotic, word for word explanation of it bizarre and insufficient. And at that mention, like every other time, for the entire 6 years since, whenever I bring it up, which I've always weaponized it, or sometimes I've used it as like a deep probe, like you do to a rib roast on Christmas, he shut down. He shut down for the rest of the drive. So we're talking probably another 2.5 hours silence. This one mystery, though, it perplexed me even more than all the things he did of a physical nature. But I didn't know about the criminal stuff yet at this point. But I'm talking the cheating, the corn addiction, the online stuff, all of it. Because on a very deep level, that thing scared me. It scared the hell out of me. If you've listened to prior episodes, you've heard me talk about it. It was deeply to my soul. I felt things. Jim was never going to willingly divulge his secrets, that one or any. So we were done. We were done. I knew it. An icy lump formed in the center of my chest. It almost cramped, and it hinted that one day soon, very soon, I would be leaving that beautiful, formidable place. Well, this concludes the series for episode 22. So thanks for being here and witnessing my continued torment, self-inflicted and otherwise. In part 23, you'll hear about the day after this confrontation when Jim makes another attempt on my life, the one that I think is the first time, which it's not. A mild trigger warning I'll tell you now, as I will describe the experience of being poisoned. If you want to know more, please remember to like, follow, and share my story to take it one step closer to being published. And ladies, I invite you, please step out of the darkness and into your power.